45 to 48. As we do each week, we're going to be alternating. So I'll read the first verse, and if you could read the second verse with a loud and confident voice so that the person in front of you can be encouraged. Let me start. Verses 35. Stay dressed for action and keep your lamps burning. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will dress himself for service and have them recline at table, and he will come and serve them. But know this, that if the master of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have left his house to be broken into. Peter said, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for all? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. But if that servant says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, and begins to beat the male and female servants, and to eat and drink and get drunk, and that servant who knew his master's will, but did not get ready or act according to his will receive a severe beating altogether. But the one who did not know and did not deserve a beating will receive a light beating. Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him whom they entrusted much, they will demand the more. This is the word of the Lord.
The passage that we read today continues from where we left off in Luke, where you might recall a man asked Jesus to help with the inheritance dispute with his brother. And Jesus used that opportunity to teach a parable about a rich fool. And the rich fool would represent so much of how we are to pursue success, how we are to pursue happiness, how we are to pursue doing well in this life. And what is wisdom for this world is foolishness to God, because instead of thinking of treasures in heaven, the rich fool is focused on the treasures on earth. And so contrasting that rich fool from verse 35, we hear more about this idea of what it looks like to live with treasures in heaven. The talk will divide into two headings. The first heading will take us through to verse 40, and that's ready and waiting. And then the second heading will finish off our portion today, much given and much required. When you're little, your parents take you everywhere. But then at some point, they decide you are old enough to stay home. And as a child, I was waiting for that day. I could watch whatever was on TV, raid the fridge, tell my sister what to do. I'm the boss now. I couldn't wait for that day. But I had to be careful. No matter what I was doing, I had my ears open for the sound of that car engine for when they return. And I would rush a mad panic to make sure that any evidence of my rebellions, any evidence of the things that I got up to that I'm not allowed to do would be quickly erased before they came home. Those precious minutes that I had, oh, they were so important to me. And so my parents would come home and they would not know. I'd pretend to be asleep. Oh, you're home. And I think, yeah, I got away with it. It would be many, many years later where I was playing a game, but I learned later they were playing a game too, where they would just pretend, but they knew all the stupid things I was doing as well. There's something about accountability. There's something about knowing that people can see what we're up to that actually is helpful to us. It can give us grounding. It can give us a sense of boundaries. Well, this whole story revolves around servants and their behavior while the master is away. So Jesus starts by saying, stay dressed for action, keep your lamps burning, be like men who are waiting for their master to come home from the wedding feast. And if you look at this, you can see that in these men who are waiting, you see an attitude, you see an attire, and you see an activity. The attitude is knowing that the master can come home, and that is their focus. The attitude is all about being ready for the master. The attire, this idea of being dressed for action, is that their loins are girded. They're wearing their servant clothes or their work clothes. They're not getting glammed up or dolled up. They're not interested in the latest, most finest threads. It's workwear because they are servants of the master. And then you can see their activity. They are keeping their lamps burning, which means they need to continue to top up the oil, check their lamps, check their wicks, so that the lights do not go out. This is the picture of the one who is living with treasures in heaven. Now, the next few verses, I don't think we get shocked enough, I think. I think it's such a wonderful and amazing verses that follow from that. Jesus says, "Blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake when he comes." How blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake when he comes. Jesus goes on, "Truly I say to you, now this is the master will dress himself for service." In other words, the master will gird his loins, have them, the servants, recline at the table, and the master will come and serve them. See, this is no ordinary master. He's not a cruel man. He's not a man who uses his position to abuse his authority. He's a master who loves his servants. To find them waiting, to find them awake, gives him joy. And so he changes his clothes to take on the role of a servant. He has them seated in the table, seated in honor, and he serves them. And this is the image of the master, the King of heaven. And finally, verse 38, if the master comes in the second watch, it's later at night, or in the third watch, the final moments before dawn, the latest part of the night, and finds them awake, blessed are those servants. Waiting is not an easy thing. And when you don't know how long you have to wait, it is that much harder. I think the hardest part of lockdown, if those of you who remember that period of our life, the hardest part of lockdown was not really knowing how much longer we had to go. Not knowing how much longer we have until the Master returns is one of the reasons why for every Christian, the temptation and the danger will always be there to shift your treasures from heaven onto treasures on earth. After waiting for so long, the temptation can take you. Now, the second example in this part is about a thief. Verse 39, but know this, that if the master of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have left his house to be broken into. Right? No thief tells you, oh, at 2 a.m. on this date, you will be robbed. The thief needs the element of surprise. The thief needs the element of not being expected, not being known when he's coming, in order to break in. You must also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Whatever the hour it will be, it is the most unexpected one. Friends, even as the early Christians shared these words, I'm sure none of them would have envisioned more so thousands of a time lapse between these words being spoken and for the consummation of God's kingdom. Friends, we wait, and it's easy for us to say it can't be much longer now. It's easy for us to think, well, now the world has been discovered. We can travel around. We've got satellites. We've got internet. Oh, well, the AI has come now. It must be time. We can speculate. But the word has said, the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. This is the life of one whose treasure is in heaven, dressed for action, lamps burning, waiting with anticipation. And Peter says, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for all? And the next section, Jesus addresses Peter's question. The short answer to Peter's question is yes. It is for all, and it is particularly for those who have been given much. And that applies very specifically to the apostles, but it applies very generally to almost all of us here. Jesus says in verse 42, who then is the faithful and wise manager whom his master will set over his household to give them their portion of food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. There are many members of the household of this master. Many of those members will be servants or slaves. And slaves, the word slavery, you can almost replace that with indentured servant, okay? So there is a faithful and wise manager. There is someone who is more tasked, whose responsibility is higher over this household. Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. So the master returns and the house is in order. Things are running well because the manager has cared for the other members of the household, including the many servants in the household. And look at verse 44. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. It's a very direct reminder of what we see in Genesis, when Joseph rises to that position. He's so good in his role that he rises to become in charge of the entire household of Potiphar, the military leader, and his master. And so, friends, while we don't know exactly how it will work, your service to Christ, your life with treasures bound in heaven, there are consequences. There are things that God will do to reward you, to put you in responsibility for, based on your faithfulness and based on your conduct. Now that's the good servant. There's 3 more servants here in this story, and they are all not so good. So first of all, the example is of this wise manager. That's the one we want to follow. But here are the contrasting ones from verse 45. If that servant says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, begins to beat the male and female servants, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him, and look at this, with the unfaithful. So that's the first of the bad ones. Verse 47 continues on, and is it the same servant or a different servant? We'll put that aside for now. Let's look at this example. And that servant who knew his master's will but did not get ready or act according to his will receive a severe beating. So it's sort of like, it sounds like it's the same servant, but then the other servant has already been cut up into pieces. What's the beating going to do, right? So different servant here. Knew his master's will, but did not get ready or act according to his will receive a severe beating. And then the third of the bad ones, verse 48. But the one who did not know and did what deserved the beating will receive a light beating. So there's some contrasts here of those who are not doing the right thing. Now the first one, verse 45, my master is delayed in coming, begins to beat the male and female servants, to eat and drink and get drunk. This category is a servant who completely has no regard for their master. Has allowed unbelief to seep into their heart and is now using his position and his authority for his own gain. He can mistreat the other servants because of his high position, and he can eat and drink whatever's in the house. Because of the master's delay, he has put himself in the position of the master. And to that person, Jesus judges him and puts him with the unfaithful. The other two are different. They haven't done the right thing, but they have not defied their master, is how I will put it to you. One knew better, but just didn't really do it. The other one didn't really know and didn't really do it. But because they didn't defy their master, because they didn't usurp their master, they do get a beating, but they are not put with the unfaithful. Now, when you read these things, what do you see? Well, you'll notice that the master does come back, first of all. Doesn't matter how long it takes, the master comes back. And secondly, what the servants did while the master was away cannot be hidden. Unlike what I thought I was hiding from my parents, whatever the servants were up to will come to light when the master returns. Friends, if faith is a show or a game to you, and you know that there is defiance in your heart, if you know that Jesus is not Lord, then that is a serious situation. That is a grave situation before you. If you know better, but you are not living according to what you know, friends, would you think about the master? Would you think about this master who dresses himself for service and serves those who call him Lord? And would you repent? If you don't really know, and in your ignorance you're not really doing what is right, friends, ignorance is no excuse. It's not a loophole for a light beating. Oh, I'm not going to study anymore. I'm not going to go to the training because I want to stay ignorant because I want to go in the light beating category. No, we don't want to be in the light beating category. You want to be in the blessing category that says that he's, come, good and faithful servant, share in your master's happiness. For those of you who are thinking, yeah, let me get into the light beating category, that's not the point of the passage at all. Are you hearing me? If ignorance is an issue, then make inroads in that ignorance by reading the Bible with friends, by doing trainings, by thinking through what Jesus commands of our lives. Look at this final part of verse 48. Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required. Think about the apostles. living with Jesus on the road every day, eating his food, hearing him teach, hearing him prepare, seeing him heal, seeing Jesus outside in public and inside in private. What a privilege, what an honor that is. Much was given to them. Explaining the parables to them. Every question they could possibly have during their time on the road, Jesus would be answering, teaching, reminding. So much was given to them. And much was required. Apart from John, they all went on to be martyred. As they led the churches, they suffered persecution. They suffered greatly under the enemies of the gospel. And friends, although that experience was unique to them, much has been given to us. The opportunities to have the Bible in our language, the opportunities to freely meet, to grow, to learn, the opportunities to worship God freely. Much has been given. And so, friends, would you think about this master who dresses himself for service, who takes off his fine linen and puts on his work clothes and takes the role of a servant, his love for his servants who are waiting for him. He serves them. And this image comes to light when Jesus would wash the feet of his disciples. And this is the master we serve. This is the master we wait for. And so let us wait. Let us think about our attitude, our attire, and our activity, our thoughts, our possessions, and the style of our life. And may the Lord touch our hearts. And in the process of waiting for the Lord's return, if our treasures in heaven have shifted to earth, that the Lord would shift them back to heaven once more. Friends, let's pray.